Greetings, friends of liberty. Usually, my delight in living in this reality, but now and again indulge myself by taking up the offer of a person you may know, Doctor Who introduced himself to me not 5 years ago. On numerous occasions, he has been most gracious in lending me the use of his time machine called the TARDIS. Now, just as some individuals find solace in partners other than their wives or husbands when the former become tiresome, I enjoy taking the TARDIS on an excursion to a different reality when my surroundings become a tad too humdrum. But while occasionally the ladies I find there are tempted by me, and, truth be told, I by them, I have little problem in upholding my marital vows. And so, not just a few days ago, I did avail myself of Doctor Who's TARDIS yet again, this time travelling ahead in time to an England experiencing its so-called Industrial Revolution. And what I found there, specifically in Cornwall, was quite intriguing. The normal understanding of how the Industrial Revolution proceeded was that individual inventors, such as Richard Arkwright, who in 1769 received a patent for the water frame, enabling one of his machines to produce 100 threads automatically, or James Hargreaves for the spinning jenny, enabling one worker to spin many spools of cotton simultaneously, vastly increased production, as they did by proceeding to sell their patented machines to many customers. However, this was only one method by which inventions and new developments occurred and were spread. Another was sometimes called collective invention. The history of Cornwall illustrates both types perfectly. In 1769, James Watt improved upon Newcomen's previous design of the steam engine by utilizing a separate condenser to cool the steam, which, allowing the cylinder with the piston to retain its heat, made the design 4 times more efficient. Watt patented this, and close to 50 Watt steam engines were used during the next quarter century in Cornwall, where coal was very dear, since most of it had to be imported from the wilds of Wales. In some years, a majority of the engines sold by Watt and his partner Boulton were used in Cornwall. Problems soon arose, however, since the many tinkerers and engineers working in the Cornish mines on these very engines soon naturally saw how they might improve upon them with their own innovations. However, Watt and Boulton refused to allow any alterations whatever, and since their patent ran until 1800, they stubbornly refused to change their mind. When their patent expired, engineers in Cornwall, angered by this intransigence, no one bought their engines anymore. By 1811, in response, a journal was published called Lean's Engine Reporter. This continued into the 20th century. In this journal, many Cornish engineers published their own designs and tips for how to improve machine operations. Subsequently, engineers Arthur Wolfe and Richard Trevithick began building their own improved designs without a patent, creating very high-pressure engines on the very edge of technical feasibility, given contemporary materials. The improved productivity of these engines created much greater profits, which all of Cornwall partly ploughed back into engine design and development, making them even more productive. A very virtuous cycle indeed. By 1850, Cornwall came to have the most efficient and powerful mining engines in all the world, 4 times more efficient than Watt's design of 1800. And all this because many miners competed amongst themselves to create patentless designs and share their knowledge with others. Now if we turn from yet another historical instance of England showing the world how superior it is here in manufacturing processes to similar instances today of collective, cooperative, patentless discovery resulting in very high productivity, we find under review today Eric von Hippel's Democratizing Innovation, a book describing in great detail how in many fields, from sports to software development to manufacturing, the very same open, innovative processes observed in Cornwall in the 19th century can be observed at work today. The purpose of this book is to understand the nature of that process. Von Hippel begins by mentioning numerous instances. Number one, the creation of Apache software, at one point the most used server software in the world. Number two, windsurfing as a sport, begun in the late 1970s by innovative regular surfers in Hawaii who simply added foot straps to a regular surfboard. Number three, kite surfing, also developed in the same way. And number four, mountain biking, first developed in the 1970s by users strengthening their own regular bikes, then manufacturers following suit with the sale of mountain bikes. By the year 2000, about 65% of total retail bike sales in the U.S. The reality, as these examples illustrate, is that 10 to 40% of users, and especially the more passionate and knowledgeable ones called lead users, are very willing and often able to modify a given product to improve it. And since lead users often anticipate what other users will want or find useful, allowing lead users the freedom to innovate and paying attention when they do can be very productive. Von Hippel says that studies show that the more characteristics of lead users an innovator possesses, the more likely it will be that his innovation will be commercially successful. In addition, in the longer term, the market as a whole catches up to the needs that motivated the lead user developments, and manufacturers will begin to find production of similar innovations to be commercially attractive. Number one, why are so many users willing to at least try to modify or improve products? Some reasons are, A, they can't find what they want in the market because user needs can vary enormously. So, for example, when buying a new couch, we need a new couch that Uncle Bill will like, that the kids can jump on, that matches the wallpaper I adore, that reflects my love of coral reefs and overall good taste, and that we can afford. All, obviously, very specific and often unique to a single user. The same applies to the open source Apache software and the great heterogeneity of needs regarding website security practices. Heterogeneity can be so great that the author found in one study that at most 10 of 43 innovations had functionality similar to that of another sample member. Even something like mountain biking has an extraordinary number of subspecialties, activities that one rider likes doing more than another. Riding on ice, doing huge jumps from buildings, riding in the backcountry, or riding on planks for footpaths. To drive this great heterogeneity of needs home in his own classes at MIT, the author asks students how they might modify their backpacks to make them more suitable for themselves. Many students can, upon reflection, think of ways to customize and improve them. Again, why are so many users willing to at least try to modify and improve products? B, even if they could find a more suitable product, the search will likely be time-consuming and the product perhaps expensive. C, they know themselves much more what they want than manufacturers who often specialize in how to efficiently produce a product, but only with their own manufacturing processes. So, for example, a manufacturing specialist in fabricating custom products from carbon fiber might find it profitable to make any kind of product, from airplane wings to tennis rackets, as long as they're made from carbon fiber. But if the customer doesn't need or want it in carbon fiber, he's out of luck. Von Hippel argues that manufacturers tend to have a strong incentive to provide biased information to users in order to convince them that the solution type in which they specialize is the best one to use. D, manufacturers too may offer other services that the user doesn't need, may run excessive tests just to satisfy legal requirements, and in addition, may refuse to compromise on quality because it might hurt the reputation of their brand. But many users have no problem with lower quality as long as it fulfills their purpose. So, for example, an engineer building $1 million machine for in-house use might feel it perfectly acceptable to install a very cheap computer controller made and prominently labeled by Lego. But no manufacturer, of course, would be caught dead using a Lego controller for reputational reasons. E, many users, like crossword puzzle aficionados, actually find intrinsic satisfaction in innovating themselves. So with software programmers in one study, 45% that one of their top 3 reasons for writing code was intellectual stimulation, and 41% said that one of their top 3 reasons was to improve their own programming skills. F, by revealing what they need and their ideas about producing it to other users, users may actually create an information commons, a collection of information freely available to all, containing substitutes for some or a great deal of information now held as private intellectual property. A typical example of this would be when someone who needs a software bug fixed asks a forum how to fix it. If the forum has thousands of users, the chances vastly increase that someone will know how. G, why do so many innovators freely reveal what they've created? Partly because they suspect others might have similar solutions, partly because of the increased reputation for them, which may help them both informally and professionally, partly because the knowledge revealed may be specific enough to help their own company, but not other companies, as has happened in the case of Linux on specific machines, and partly because the network effects of revealing may increase the value of software and hardware items within the revealer's network. Number 2. Now, if we assume, as certainly seems to be the case, that in some instances this is an alternate way of creating new innovative products, we should ask, why should this be? Why would this process in some cases be so efficient? And what does the process entail? A, first, it's an economic discovery process. No one really knows precisely beforehand, 1, what kind of needs people will find enjoyable and valuable, 2, which users will recognize those needs best, which means that 3, when tools like computer-assisted design are widely available, the problem of finding a good designer or innovator is lessened since so many more people can use the tools needed to create at relatively little expense to themselves. B, so for example, university surgeons care a great deal about having just right surgical equipment, just as serious mountain bikers care a great deal about having just right equipment for their sport. For these users, given the risks of equipment failure, making or helping make the tools themselves is easier since they know exactly what they need. C, people like craftsmen or companies who make certain products may already have an acquaintanceship with the methods used to make new tools they need themselves. So, for example, nearly all the most important innovations in oil refining were developed by user firms, and the most widely licensed chemical production processes were developed by user firms. Similarly, 87% of users in the lead user cluster reported either developing or modifying the PC CAD software that they used, and many libraries now have in-house programming expertise, which helps modify the software they use. D, in situations like newly developing sports, manufacturers, by seeing what the lead users are doing and which products are popular, can then proceed to manufacture these products with their superior manufacturing expertise. So one study found that now 23% of the user-developed innovations reported were or soon would be produced for sale by a manufacturer. These were in sports like canyoning, bordercross, and sailplaning. E. The innovation is often of both technique and equipment. So early kites for kite surfing were developed and built by user enthusiasts who were inventing both the kite surfing techniques and kite surfing equipment independently. Similarly, in house construction, stressed skin panels made of 2 sheets of plywood with foam insulation in between were used, which offered lightness, cheapness, and flexibility, the only problem being how to route the wires and cables inside these. One builder, on his own, figured out a great solution. Use electricity to heat the tip of a wire, which then melted its way through the interior foam of the panel, creating a channel for other wires without weakening the panel's strength or structural integrity. The time and cost for him was an hour of going to a hardware store and $40. And this idea, supplied in part by his own experience, is something a manufacturer likely wouldn't have thought of. F. When users are creating a new product, the process for them is generally fourfold. A. Contemplate the problem and think of an initial solution. B. Make a model or prototype to test. C. Test the prototype model. And D. Make revisions to the tested model, then see if it performs better. This about covers the meat and potatoes of Dr. Hippel's book, although he discusses many other topics as well, among which are A. Whether patents are needed, he arguing in some instances not, and perhaps implying, given the use of patents to sometimes obstruct new and better inventions from being produced, that they should be outlawed. This seems absurd. B, he talks about Richard Stallman and the Free Software Foundation, although that has been eclipsed by the Open Source Initiative, precisely because the Free Software Foundation didn't allow for any commercial usage of their software. C, he talks about how in some instances, if the lead users and manufacturers can settle on the right design toolkits, the lead users can actually participate in designing products. A very simple example of this, one of many, being when Domino's or Pizza Hut allows users to select the toppings of the pizza they order, but not to change other aspects of the pizza. And D, finally, how manufacturers who have benefited in the past from lead user-inspired products often completely forget the central role played by these lead users. I suspect most of us participate in some way in the information commons and use its products. For me, 2 examples would be the software utility AutoHotkey, which allows one to program the computer to do anything that you can do with your keyboard and mouse repetitively, and the open source Thunderbird email client. I would give this short 200-page book an A- because it's succinctly and very capably, offering many illustrations, covers an important topic related to the production and acquisition of human knowledge and how to make innovation in some circumstances much more productive. Happy for my part that those Cornish mining engineers during the 18th and 19th century showed the world how extraordinarily productive, knowledge-loving and knowledge-sharing countries can be. I bid you well, and remain the Scarlet Pimpernel.